All right. I'm not sure if everybody can hear me yet. I'll give it about another minute or so, 45 seconds. Let people join in and make sure the technology is up and running. It's always good to see you, Camille.
Yeah, same for you. And actually, we have like very nice afternoon today, so
Yeah, yeah.
maybe a good time to learn something from time to time.
Yeah. One thing I like about these webinars is you have people from all over the world. Yeah. We have a nice, wonderful day, and there might be people out there who can hear us right now who are quite jealous of us.
You never know.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So I think probably it's been enough time now, so I'll go ahead and get started. I want to say hello and welcome to everybody to our webinar, Test Microsoft Dynamics 365 One Version Updates Automatically or Drown in the Chaos. I'd like to thank everyone again for joining. I'm Jacob Davis, Customer Success Manager here at X Plus for test automation and testing services. Now, X Plus is a Microsoft Dynamics implementation partner and Inner Circle member. And I'm, of course, joined by my good friend and colleague, Kamil Wojcik. And Kamil is the head of our test services department, and he's got over 9 years of experience working with global corporations doing this very thing. So I think he'll have some good information to share with everybody. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, and of course, we'll send that out to everyone. We'll send it to the email address that you registered with. So if you registered with like a Gmail account or something like that, just make sure to check there, and you'll get the recording as well as some other information. At the end, we'll have a bit of an offer for you as well. So make sure to check whatever account you registered with. Also, we'll have a Q&A session at the end, so feel free to use the comments section to ask any questions you have as we go along, and then at the end, we'll address those as time permits, yeah? And if anything that we don't get to, of course, we'll reach out to you and make sure that we do answer your questions. So with that said, I think I can go ahead and move on to the agenda, and we can get started with the meat of the webinar. So. All right, so yeah, one version. I think most of the people who are joining in on this are probably quite familiar with it, but I think there's a few things that are important to point out. So we'll go ahead and talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about what you need to know. We'll talk specifically about some mandates, like some requirements that Microsoft has that you need to do. We'll also talk about the process, how it looks when you're scheduling and working with these updates. And then, of course, as I'm customer success manager for several years here, working with things like this specifically, I'll give a little bit of feedback that I'm hearing from customers regarding the testing perspective of one version updates. After that, we'll move on, to test or not to test. We'll talk about how we actually do testing for one version. So Kamil will take over there and talk about that. And of course, then automatic end-to-end testing and a regular use case. We'll talk about listing and prioritizing key processes, setting up test data, regression scripts, and of course the upgrade runbook. And as I mentioned previously, we'll have a Q&A session at the end as well. So we'll make sure to talk about that. All right, so one version. Why are we talking about Microsoft 365 one version? In general, one version is continuous updates. It's a seamless update process. Now, I say seamless and continuous, but we'll talk about it a little bit later too. You can postpone some of these updates. However, it's in the cloud, and users are obligated to validate these updates. If the environment is still functional after the update, they have to check that. So, really, it all comes down to testing, and regression testing is definitely needed for these updates that you see. So, um, yeah. All right, moving on. What you need to know about one version. As I mentioned, the idea is frequent, smaller updates rather than the infrequent and costly massive upgrades with the previous platforms of Dynamics. I think we can all agree that it's a little easier to do things a little bit at a time than it is to, every now and then just try to buckle down and handle everything all at once. So, what this does with these frequent, smaller updates, it allows you to stay, right at the front of technological progress. It's always up to date with new technology and, of course, new functionalities. So you're always at the very front of functionality progress as well as technology progress. And this, of course, allows you to meet customer needs and also business user needs much, much quicker. So it's quite important. Um, these minor monthly updates, those happen, but there are also two major updates per year, and those happen in April and October. So that's a key thing that you definitely need to know when it comes to Microsoft One version. Um, Another thing is that it eliminates data migration and code migration. So whoo, that's a plus. Gotta love that, right? So uh, customizations also will work in the next versions, but you do need to test, do regression tests, and make sure that they are working. And of course, there's always backwards compatibility. So those are some key things that are good to know when it comes to thinking about one version. Um, all right, moving on to mandates. Um, One of the first mandates and most important is that you must take at least two and sometimes three updates per year. I say sometimes three because it depends upon your scheduling, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The next point factors into that is you can skip three updates in a row. And so, depending upon when you take your first update in the year, it could be two or three updates that you need to take. Um, and then last but not least is you have to plan your service window for the updates. So you have to let Microsoft know, and you have to choose and plan ahead for that. And so those are the three mandates that Microsoft puts on its customers. Yeah. Next, I mentioned we talk about the process. This is really the standard kind of automatic process that you go through. Of course, it can be adjusted a little bit, and I'll talk about that after we talk about the standard process first. Firstly, you'll configure. And what this means is basically you just choose your maintenance window. So what you're doing is you're choosing when Microsoft will go ahead and do the automatic update for you. That, of course, is if you don't do a self update, which is also an option. And I would say, from my experience, a lot of our customers are doing the self update, or at least hoping to. But if you don't do the self update, then you have chosen that window in which Microsoft will then go ahead and do the auto update for you. So that's the configure aspect of this process. Next, quite important as far as planning goes, the notice. This is when you get the release plans, and that lets you know what's changing. And so then you're able to take a look at that and see how it might affect your business. And as we all know, planning is critical for any kind of IT things that we're going through, especially with updates. Third thing then is the update, and this is exactly as it sounds. Is you do the update, whether it's self update or auto update. First, though, you'll do the update in the UAT environment, and then once you've validated that, move it into the prod environment, which leads into the fourth aspect, which is validate. And once the update occurs on UAT, you've tested it, which you must do, and then update to the production environment. So that's really the standard process and how things look in general. Now, one thing that I want to mention is that you can get free access to the update and install on your chosen environment. Somewhere between 4 and 10 weeks early. You need to take a look in the action plans aspect of LCS, and you can actually then manage that and get this a little bit earlier, so that way you have a little bit more time to do some testing on it. Um, that's pretty much it as far as the process goes. Now, I'd like to move on and share a little bit about feedback that I get from customers that I've been working with over the past 4.5, 5 years. As I mentioned, it's different now whenever we have one version. It used to be with the previous versions of Microsoft Dynamics that you had the massive upgrade, but it was infrequent. And so, therefore, when you're thinking about like test automation, uh, it was basically you set up your test cases and got them automated, and then you could just keep reusing them, reusing. Now, with the updates being much more frequent, that complicates things a little bit. And so you have to really consider a couple of things. And these are what the customers have been telling me over time when it comes to this type of thing is, first of all, we have to test date these updates thoroughly in order to maintain business continuity. Not just test them a little bit, but it has to be a very, very thorough testing process, especially when it comes to your core processes. Yeah. And moving on from that aspect then is it means that it is impossible to manually test everything thoroughly enough. Uh, Short time periods, you have to do it, a few times a year. Some customers are taking 4 updates per year or more, and you don't have a whole lot of time to do it if you're trying to do it all manually. If they wanted to do it manually, it would completely blow up their budget just hiring on enough testers to do it, or it would ruin, the business users would have to be doing this extra testing, and that takes away from time, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. The next part is that both test automation and manual testing are necessary. You can't test everything automatically or in an automated fashion. There are some things that you have to test manually, and there are some things that just aren't worth spending the time to test in an automated fashion. So both test automation as well as manual testing are necessary. Um, I mentioned just previously, but you definitely need to identify the core processes and make sure that they are being tested enough. You don't want to test all regression. Select the core processes, prepare your test automation scripts, and then test automatically. That's much, a time saver as well as a resource saver, money saver, etc. And it also helps with consistency of things because, as you see in the next part, is heavy reliance on business users to do the actual testing. That tends to lead to a chaotic environment. Business users, they have their normal business duties to do. If somebody's working in accounting or finance, they have their tasks that they have to do on a daily basis. And if they are suddenly being put into a situation where they have to do testing, that takes away from their job, which hurts the business. But also, they don't want to do that. They probably won't test well enough, or maybe, hopefully this doesn't happen. Hopefully all of your employees are wonderful employees, but I tend to see with our customers that the business users will say, "Yeah, we tested it, but they didn't, test it well enough," and that really hurts the quality of the application. Um, Next thing then is stability of integrated applications. Oftentimes, this is actually the aspect where it comes to manual testing. Um, so you really need to focus on especially integrated applications that are part of your core business process. Maybe it's a web shop that you have where orders are placed. It's obviously something you want to be testing. That also needs to be tested to make sure the compatibility with Microsoft Dynamics is still functional and it's not ruining your business process. Uh, then the very last thing is technology selection when it comes to test automation. Um, I hear about this a lot because, again, this is part of what we do and what I've been doing for the past 5 years. Our customers they're looking for a few key things when choosing their test automation tool. The first thing that I've always heard is no developer skills needed to set up and run the automated tests. Developers are not cheap. They're quite expensive. And not only that, but they are doing important work all the time. And so they can definitely spend their time in much better ways than spending it on testing things after an update. So you definitely need to take the developers and be able to remove them as much as possible from the testing process. And the best way to do that is through automation that does not require developer skills. Another thing that I hear a lot is tool support, um, especially tool support where the support team that you're talking with has direct knowledge of testing in Microsoft Dynamics. That can be critical. If you're talking with somebody and they have no idea, they've never looked at Microsoft Dynamics before, it's just some web-based platform that you're testing with, you can call up for support and they're really just not a whole lot of help. And this is a critical aspect because you need to know how to use the tool that you're using. You won't know everything, and so you need support that you can rely on. And that tends to be one of the bigger sticking points that our customers come to us and like about us. Yeah. And then the last thing I think is probably the biggest thing and the most relatable thing for people here, because I think everybody has probably tried to use RSAT or has seen RSAT at least, and that is low maintenance requirements for test scripts, your automated test scripts. If an update happens, you don't want to spend as much time as you already spent creating the test cases to go back in and basically recreate all of the test cases. Almost all of our customers started off using RSAT before coming to us. And they quit RSAT because they spent all these months setting up their test scripts, went through an update, and then had to spend almost the same amount of time just going back in and reworking their test scripts. What you want with a test automation solution is something that uh, you set it up once and you don't have to do a whole lot of work to those test scripts after that. Of course, there's a little bit of maintenance that's required here and there, but the real key is keeping that maintenance level very low. And so I think that these are some key things that I've heard from our customers over the years that I thought would be nice to share with you all. Now, we'll move on to the next section, and then Kami will take over. How do we test for one version? And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to share with us on this.
Cool. Thanks, Jake. Yeah, okay, so the question is already there. So, how do we test the one version? So, for testing one version, the things we need is the test data and the key processes. So, the most vital that actually the customers have. And we can provide some help with setting up the priority for your scenarios or guide you how to create some if you don't have it already. And then we prepare the regression scripts. We are using our tool Executive Automate. So, it's quite easy, efficient, and reliable, as Jake already mentioned. Then we're checking the modifications. If you have any, run the created scripts to give us all the answers in the terms of what is changed in this upgrade. And we also do our best to keep the test variables to be reusable for various legal entities if you have more than one. And we can proceed to the next one. And what about listing and prioritizing key processes? So, as I mentioned, key processes are the most vital in your company and they can't be omitted during your daily work. And they are also the ones that gives you profit. So we can automate many cases, mostly the ones that are most frequently used and are not too complex to keep it up with reliable results. Because if they're complex, the manual testing is probably the better way than the automated one. However, to reduce maintenance costs, we propose to keep the automation index level at reliable zero point 0.5 automated cases between the all test cases. So manual testing is very hands-on and it requires analysts and QA engineers to be highly involved in everything from test case creation to actual test execution. And automation testing involves testers writing the test scripts that will automate the test execution. And if we can move forward, what about the data? So actually, client needs to set up the data on their tested environment. So as close to the production data you will give us as the reliable results you will get from us. And next one, please. And the regression scripts. So regression candidates are all the cases which affects directly this functionality and its module. So all the cases got the report of execution where the results can be checked. And in case of any change after upgrade, those will be presented to the client. So you will know if anything changed after the upgrade. We can also provide service of maintenance for the scripts to keep up with the changes and to check before each update. So this will automate some work for the customer. And this is, let's say, our to-do list, which we call the runbook. So actually, the things we do during the process is to create some smoke tests with the previous data, check release updates, and create the sanity tests for them for any change. We do early update on sandbox environment to run those, do regression tests, create the test report and regression analysis, do the retest and model regression in case of any defects found, finally do the final regression after all fixes. And also the thing we can provide is a creation of golden template. So the cases that are used in all legal entities, if there are anything like done very frequently and can be reused, we can create a set of the test cases, so the test suite, which combines like all of them. And thank you. That will be all.
Yeah, thanks, Camille. Yeah, so an offer as well for this a free consultation for the first 8 companies who register. You can see the URL here at the bottom, the webinar xplusglobal.com free testing consultation. What this is 45 minutes of consultation on testing, and we'll offer this to our webinar participants here. Of course, if you have colleagues or something like that who'd like to join as well, they can absolutely join in. Um, we wanted to make sure we saved a lot of time here because this is definitely a topic in which, uh, you know, it's highly variable depending upon your situation. And so really encourage you to go ahead and ask questions here in the comments section. We're happy to go ahead and answer those. I actually had received a couple of questions previously, so if we don't see any quick questions here, we can go ahead and discuss those. Um, one of those is, how much time do I have for validation? Yeah. And this is a good question. Generally, what you get is 7 calendar days. Yeah. And this can be adjusted slightly if you, as I mentioned a little bit before, if you go ahead and take a look at the LCS and the Action Center. Yeah. You can apply it to your environments and get a deployable package a little bit earlier. And in this way, you can get some additional time to do the testing of the update before you put it on your production environment. And so, yeah, you get in general 7 calendar days for validation after the update's applied to your sandbox UAT environment. But if you go to this Action Center and LCS, you can get a little bit of extra time for that. So. I think this would be a good one for you, Camille. Yeah.
Okay, so what does it mean when an update is backward compatible? So actually, Microsoft won't do anything to break the development rules, but regression tests are needed because if Microsoft must break the compatibility before by removing the obsolete APIs, for example, this change will be communicated like 1 year, 12 months in advance, and will follow a depreciation schedule. So you will know if such change will appear. And also, functional compatibility is about the user experience, and all new experiences will be available and on an opt-in basis also in the 12 months period. As for the backward compatibility, doesn't include like non-X++ metadata for the APIs. Microsoft doesn't commit to maintain backwards compatibility of dependent software libraries unless this commitment is expressly stated. So, yeah, it's like
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Got another one here. Okay. What is an automation tool other than RSAT for automating scripts? Yeah, of course, we would recommend our executive automats. You can find that. Actually, we'll make sure. Let's go ahead and drop that into the comments section here. Yeah, executive automats is the tool that we created and use ourselves, as well as with our over 250 some customers now, I believe. And the idea behind this tool was to, again, make sure that there's no developers needed, make sure that the test cases can be reusable, repeatable through the updates. Of course, there's many other features to it, such as you can create documentation automatically, where you have screenshots as well as description of what's going on just by clicking a button, and you can use that for like onboarding or training, things like that. Also, if you're in like a heavy regulated industry, like maybe like defense or pharmaceutical, life sciences, things like that, you often need to do proof of testing. And so with each run, you can just click a button and generate the documentation so you can show it to regulators. Some other ones that I hear about are LeapWork is another one. That's a good bit different than ours. It's more of a modular base. Mm, how to say it exactly? It's not really so much UI based. With executive automats, basically what you're doing is creating the test script. A normal business user can actually go in and record a business process. So if you have a salesperson, he can go through and record his own, how to create a sales order with executive automats and just do it. With LeapWork, it's a bit different. You have to module out. Create a model and put in the steps and then go in and insert things from there. I've also heard of one called Test Cafe. This one is more developer based, and so you do see quite a few developers who use that tool as well. There are several others actually. It's not all of them are. Most of them are not dynamics specific, and so yeah, those are three good ones. Yeah, good question. All right, taking a look here. Yeah, keep them coming. We've got some time here, so any other questions you have? I've got questions for you guys, but I don't think you can answer me. So, yeah, we can wait a few minutes. But while we're doing that, Camille, while waiting for people to comment on
Mhm.
things, you had mentioned the upgrade run book, and so maybe tell us a little bit more about certain things that you had mentioned in there. So, for example, like you saw smoke tests and so forth. Maybe we can go back to that slide or something. But, well, before we do that, I guess I see another question here. So,
Cool. Oh.
this is yeah, that's a good one. So, Kamo, you'd mentioned that there should be another round of final regression after fixes.
Mhm.
So, why to do a whole regression again? Why not check the fixes only? So, maybe elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah,
Thank-
sure. So actually, we need to do like system testing that will cover like all the key processes just to make sure that they all are working. If we just do the retests of the after the defects are fixed, it might give us like not really reliable results. Yeah, so it's always better to test like the whole thing again to make sure that all your processes are working. And as we like mean together, me and Jake, that those are the key processes which gives you profit. So I guess that like another round of the regression is not like it's worthy. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
worth doing it just to make sure that all is working one after another.
Yeah. And another key thing too is that a lot of your tests should be automated, and so I mean it's really shouldn't be a whole lot of work to do that second round of regression testing. Of course, there are manual things that you'll need to do, but what would you think,
Yeah,
Camille, if something is needs to manually be tested, and it's one of your key processes, you would probably still recommend to redo that again, yeah?
yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
We in terms of doing the manual test, as I mentioned, we do only the complex scenarios with it, just to make sure
Hmm.
that each step has the reliable result.
Yeah.
But the rest, actually, it will be like clicking one button to run the automated ones and just go on with the
Yeah.
manual ones. So also this should be rather a quick action.
Okay. Okay, good question. How do we suggest to automate a CE-based solution? Um, yeah, again, the test tools that I mentioned before, um, all three of those should work. Again, the differences are is there's Test Cafe, which is more developer based, and so you would need to have a developer to be working on that. LeapWork is more model based, so you would handle it that way. It again with both Test Cafe and LeapWork and Executive Automats. Anything web-based can be tested with those three in particular. Of course, you can also take a look at RSAT. RSAT wouldn't work for CE, but yeah, I think actually they do have some compatibility with CE now, as far as I know. So, yeah, any of those solutions you can check out. Again, I'm personally in favor of executive automats and would encourage you to take a look at that also. Yeah. Aha. Yeah, sure thing. I think I can handle this, and you can help out a little bit,
Hmm.
Camille. But
Sure.
yeah, so with us, for example, we are a Microsoft Dynamics implementation partner, and so our expertise, our knowledge is all based in Microsoft Dynamics 365, as well as AX 2012 and further back. But specifically with 365, we have you can have a tester, and this would be somebody who would be in charge of setting up, recording the processes, setting them up for test automation. So doing things to make them repeatable, like using number sequences, Excel loops, uh, making variables and passing variables between test cases to make test cases end to end, things like that. So tester services would be a tester, and then also a test manager. So somebody like Camille, who knows how to set up, run, and manage a process like this. Um, and of course, if needed, we have also in our company consultants and so forth who can help out and identify different processes and so forth. But in general, the way it works is we would have the tester sit down with you and our test manager, someone like Camille, who would speak with you and you would identify to us what the processes look like within your specific company. Yeah. And then our tester would say, oh, okay, great. And he would go and record them, set them up for testing purposes. And Camille would then put together the plan to handle that. So yeah, that's what the test services would look like. That pretty much covers it. Yeah, Camille?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Actually, this is the thing we'll do.
Yeah. Ah, nice. Yeah. Typical time for setting up test environments for regression versus the actual time running automated regression. Hmm. Yeah. That's maybe you have some information on that.
So actually, it depends on the how big the process is and how many steps are
Yep.
recorded
Yep.
in the process. But actually, it doesn't take like very much time to run the process. We have some scripts that can some users that actually have scripts like 600 steps or so, and the case would run for about an hour. But in most cases, they are not that long. So actually, just to set up the environment is it's just like setting the proper configuration for us and authenticate the users for us to prepare to go on with the test. So it's not taking that much time actually, and running the regression pack, as I said, it just depends on how many cases and how big cases do you have.
Yeah, and I'll add one thing to that actually is you mentioned setting up the users and the virtual users to perform the tests in the environment. Um, you know, it doesn't take a whole lot of time at all with the executive automats, for example, to set up a virtual user. But sometimes it could take time in your company to set up a virtual user because this is actually connected to an Active Directory account.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a test account, sometimes it's a real person, real account, etc. And so that also will play into it. So if your company can be a bit slow or somebody's on vacation who needs to approve this account or something, that can add into the time of setting up the test environments. But yeah, that's I think everybody kind of understands that aspect of it. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We'll follow up with an email on this, and I'm sure the website will be included, so you can take a look at executive automats. Um, yeah, when I said that, what I said earlier basically is the idea is to have anybody who knows the business process can use the tool to record that business process just by going through their normal process. So they log into Dynamics, they log into Executive Automats, they hit record, and then they just do their normal process, like create a sales order or whatever it happens to be. And then it's quite easy to just using the user interface to then say, let's say, put in some um, number sequences so that way it can be repeated over and over because a lot of processes you can't use the same data, or to use an Excel file with an Excel loop attached to it so you can put in unique data, or to pass variables between things using conditionals or things along those lines. And so the idea behind executive automats was to make it extremely simple to get the processes recorded, make it extremely simple to modify those processes, and this goes into the low maintenance aspect. And then there's a couple of other benefits that come along with it as well. Is number one, we can do performance testing, which basically we're able to take a set of your scripts and multiply it out using multiple virtual users, and it simulates almost exactly. We've done this process several times here just in the past couple of months. Kamil and I worked on a couple of projects together actually with it, where you're able to put as much load on the system as you want, and also then take a look and see what the performance of everything was. You can from a user's perspective. So hey, whenever there's 500 people using the application at the same time, this particular step in this one particular process takes 10 times longer than normal. And so you can identify these bottlenecks quite well. And then the last thing with the tool is you also get that documentation that I mentioned, and that is actually just icing on the cake for most of our customers. They really think that, hey, I can use this to show my regulators we did do this testing, and here's the variables we used, here's the outcome of it, etc. So those are some key things. And then one other aspect, it's involved with another tool that we have, which is around security permission setup. This is a separate tool, and if you're interested, of course, we can talk about that. But you can use all of these processes that you've recorded to plug into this security tool that we have, in which you can then identify the entry points that are needed and set up the duties, privileges, roles, create custom roles, all automatically, all taken from your previously recorded test scripts. So that's kind of a rundown of the tool. But yeah, we give free demos. Also have a free trial available if you'd like that. So yeah, we'll definitely reach out to you and give you more information on that. So good question. hmm so can the tests be run during D365 implementation or only after go live? Yeah, I see customers actually running tests well before go live. I'm sure you have the same, Camille.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually because things will change between the pre-go live and then go live, so the processes will change a little bit and so forth. But if you've got your process recorded and it's easy to change, it with the tool that you've selected, the automation tool, it's you've already got the bulk of the work done, and so then it's just small modifications rather than recording the whole thing. Yeah, would you agree with that? I think, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, there is like some called the sandbox environment, so you can just check it before you go.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the question. Okay. Do I see any other questions here? Okay, I see a comment here that says if anyone's using executive automats that's joined us, um, yeah, drop your email ID. And so I won't call your names out, but I definitely see a couple of customers in here. So if you would like to share that with Subu, then feel free to go ahead and do that. We're always happy for our customers to chat with other folks. Okay. there's some good questions. Let's see, new comment here. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I'm actually I'm probably quite stupid and I should know this, but I'm not familiar with this Appium browser stack. Um, but we'll follow up with you, Cameron, and
Yeah,
uh, and talk about this. Yeah. Thank you.
we can schedule such session for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and these don't even have to be questions. They can be suggestions as well, or experiences you've had in the comments here. We've still got 20 minutes to go. Will do. Yep. Sorry, I'm not sure everybody can see all the comments or not. I was speaking to Cameron.
Mhm.
hmm So by resources, you mean like the with regards to the system performance and so forth, yeah? Um, if that's what you mean, then I think that um, you know what? Oh, gosh, I'm brain farting right now. I can't think of the word. Azure Monitor is one that can be used as well as LCS. So you can definitely take a look at that. Um, or any other third-party application, but Azure Monitor and LCS are the ones that we've used for our performance test process projects. And this gives information about what's happening on the AOSs, and you can definitely use those. With the performance testing, we generally it's a project that we'll do where you don't even have to buy executive automats. You can actually just purchase a project, yeah, and then we install it onto your environment. And of course, this tool can executive automats can be on-prem or SaaS, and so we're hosting it or it's on your network, and so either way is fine with us. But we generally then will walk through the project with you. Now, of course, our customers they can do it on their own if they want, but oftentimes they'll ask for our support on that as well. I'm not sure if I understood your question correctly, but if not, just let me know. hmm yeah, that's a bit too technical for me. Yeah, resources of as of meaning VMs, so virtual machines. Yeah, um,
Actually, we will
yeah,
pass this one for our DevOps as they are setting up the environment for the automation,
hmm
and we can give you
yeah,
like a mm, table of how many sessions can run on per session, how
hmm
many sessions can run per machine, and actually how does it look like in terms of any performance.
gotcha. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thanks, Martin.
that's true. Thanks.
Yeah, we worked really hard on that. I'll pass that along to our dev team and also to Bart, our project manager. They, they, all of them, man, they were working extremely hard to get that done. So I'll pass that to them. Thanks, Martin. Okay, so Appium is used for automating mobile applications. Has limitations when it comes to Azure-based VMs. Okay, yeah, we'll definitely look into this, and we'll get back to you, and we'll talk to you about that offline because yeah, I'm not familiar with this, but
Yeah,
thanks for that information. We'll look into it and have a chat with you about it.
yeah, we will check out this for Appium. Actually, I work with the road framework for
Uh-huh.
create automations, but yeah, we'll take a look.
Yeah, thanks for that. While we're waiting for more questions to come in, Camille, what would you say is in the projects that we do with testing services, um, what's something that's extremely important for the customer? I'm thinking immediately like having the data available and up to date. But what's something that is, oftentimes maybe a challenge because the customer might not have been prepared appropriately for the test service project or something? Is there anything that you can think of,
Uh,
or maybe?
yeah, also, yeah, I was about to mention it during the presentation, but mostly, as the people from the business are often very very busy, yeah, and it's hard to contact
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
So it's a good practice to have like someone dedicated in the company to contact with the like testing department, for example. If you don't own one, it's always good to have kind of person in your company that will stick with the maintenance team
Hmm.
and actually can answer the questions like from time to time, even if he or she can't like directly answer the question. uh, so this could be the person that actually can get the info for us, yeah, and
Yep.
this will often speed the process up, because from time to time the biggest challenge is like the setting up the environment correctly. So from time to time we run the scripts and then we find out, oh sorry, it just wasn't set up, so it couldn't
Mhm.
finish with success because there is a failure during the configuration. So
Mhm.
uh, mostly those are the cases that
Mhm.
yeah, are a bit challenging for the testing team.
Yeah, and I think having this person, this touch point that you can reach out to, that's generally with regards to, you mentioned the environment, but also, we won't know exactly what a sales order process looks like in your business. And so we need somebody to show us what that looks like, and having a touch point within the company who can say, oh, you need to know what a sales order looks like here, talk to this person and introduce us. And they can just say, oh, yeah, here's exactly what it looks like. So we make sure we're actually testing your processes. I think I've seen that a couple of times as well.
Yeah, and actually, from some of our projects, we have like there are companies that are just being on the line with us, so we have like a touch point, and the tester from my team is in
Yeah.
direct contact with the touch point, like almost like on the line, and then the work comes really quickly, really really quickly, and
Yeah.
really efficiently. So yeah, this
You
is
know,
the.
if I had to say, and again, you can add to this, but I think the requirements. So if you wanted for us to help you with testing services, the requirements would be we need to have users, Active Directory accounts that we can use as virtual users, so we can log into your environment and do the test. Yeah. So need to have the virtual users set up. Would also need to have the understanding of the processes, right? So you would have to be able to share documentation with us as to what the process looks like, and or have a consultant or business users, business analyst, or maybe a business process owner, somebody like that. What are some other things you would add? Maybe something around like data or something like this. Um, so I'd say we need users, need to understand what the processes look like. Of course, need access to the environment, but
Yeah, but
data prepared.
yeah, but you just like presented the prerequisites that we have to
Hmm.
start tests. But
Exactly. Yeah.
for me, the most vital point of all of this is that we have like the acceptance criteria of the processes that we are proceeding with. So actually,
Ah.
we
Yeah.
must know the correct results before we run the test, because in other terms we will get we will have some result for sure, yeah, but we have to
Yeah.
be certain that's the real one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What results do you want? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so in terms of actually approving any kind of requirements, we need to have such info as well, or have the person who can confirm that info.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and of course, all the paperwork done. So vendors set up all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I haven't seen any questions here for a few minutes. Uh, uh, okay, nice. Customers really need good to be business processes so we can effectively define suitable tests. Yeah, yeah. Uh, well, thanks again. EA does a great job enabling end-to-end processes to be automated. So yeah, I think that ties into your point there is, kind of success criteria. Yeah. What is exactly, what should it look like? Yeah.
Mm. I think that maybe if some more questions comes to someone's mind, just send us a mail. There is like
Mm-hmm. Yep.
a
Yeah,
picture of
and
the emails below. So
yeah, awesome. Oh, I can see in this picture, it was a while ago. I haven't had a haircut since then. Time to go back to the barber. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. As I said, we'll be reaching out to you and sending out the information with the website so you can sign up for free consultation, and then also get the recording for the webinar. Uh, Feel free to share that recording with anybody. We don't put any copyright or anything like that on it. So in the comments here, you've got our contact information. And yeah, we're happy to chat and really appreciate all the questions and everybody's time today. So I think we can go ahead and finish work about 9 minutes early.
cool. Thanks so much, and have a great day then.